Okay, so this is probably the worst time to be doing a stream, but I was in the mood, so yeah. So I have a thought. Pretty much every Iron Man foe is tech based. I think I said something along these lines in the last one. So why not have the villain or villains in this be based around genetic superiority and not technological superiority. Um, which I know doesn't really make sense as a threat for an Iron Man story, but it's just a thought. Um, but I'd have to be very careful not to make them seem like the Inhumans or mutants in some way. Um, it could be even um, it could even be that they're not fully against technology. They just believe that the future of humanity is to combine both superior genetics and technology um, towards building a superior race, like greater intelligence, bodies that are more adaptable, that are, basically Captain America, but better in their eyes. Um, like they want all of humanity to basically be Captain America with um, like bodies that are far more durable and can survive things that pretty much nobody else can. Um, so I'm thinking they're attempting to replicate certain mutations uh, for that purpose. Like I think I mentioned this in the last one, but think sort of along the lines of Umbrella from Resident Evil, right? Where the whole purpose of Umbrella is to create a pathogen by which humanity can achieve what certain scientists who work for them believe counts as godhood. Um, Now, for this organization, their view is um, hey there, love Swifty edits. Happy to see you here, as well as you by Panana. By Pana, sorry. I do quite a lot actually, which is the reason why I've been doing streams focused on an idea I had for like an Iron Man comic. What I would do if I was writing an Iron Man comic, which is to create a brand new character who would spin off into having his own series. Um, let's call this organization for right now the Light Society. Light meaning like enlightenment or shining the truth on all things. Um, and they mainly want access to Tony Stark's technology because they want it for military purposes. They want to be able to like outfit members of their society so that they can defend themselves, so that they can um, cover all bases. Really, this isn't well thought out, but it will be in time. No, I don't like Stranger Things. I find it to be highly overrated, honestly. Now, I have seen the first three seasons, mainly because of two characters that I really like, Eleven and Hopper. Huge fan of those two. Those two were the only reasons why I watched it. But really couldn't care less. Could care less for any other characters. Also, really like the teenagers. What was his name? Steve. Steve is awesome. And I also liked Billy as like a more of a villainous role. But beyond that, couldn't care could care less for the other characters. Um, I liked Will's storyline, but I don't know. It just went downhill for me. So yeah, gonna call the villainous organization the Society of Light. Again, not finalized. That's just a makeshift title. And so Clarissa uh, is more or less enhanced. Um, you could kind of see their philosophy as being similar to like the High Evolutionary. Um, but I used Umbrella because I think that's more of a one-to-one uh, connection, if you will, where they literally have researched and developed um, like their technologies and what have you to save humanity in their eyes. Like striving to find a process by which they can create the perfect human body that, cannot be affected by illness. Uh, can be immune to cancer. Um, that can um, I don't know what 404 is. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Um, and that also have like superior levels of intelligence. Um, I don't know if anyone here has played Horizon Forbidden West, but there's a group in that game who, through science, have made themselves what we might view as like the perfect race of human beings. Highly advanced medical technology to more or less make themselves immortal. Uh, Highly advanced like suits and whatnot that give them all sorts of capabilities, like energy shields and stuff. You name it. That's more or less the thought process I have for the villains in this story. This new in this munition arc, if you will. But they need Iron Man's technology to serve as a stepping stone for like completing their basically for like training outfitting their soldiers, right? Like the leaders just want bodies that in their eyes once again are more or less immortal. Like they want to have healing on par or greater than that of Wolverine. They want to have bodies that are essentially ageless. They want to have bodies that have, like peak level strength, uh, conditioning, reflexes, that sort of thing. They basically want to be super Captain Americas in terms of, uh, you know, how their bodies are, but also have um, extremely, better versions of Wolverine's healing. And then for the military force that they plan to build, they want to outfit them with um, technology derived from Tony Stark's Ironman suits. Um, and Clarissa's more or less, uh, you can almost kind of compare them to the League of Assassins from DC, Ra's al Ghul's group. And his whole thing is that he's semi-immortal because the Lazarus Pit has kept him alive for centuries. But in this, it's like taking the effects of something like that and making them permanent. Um, and this group could also serve as like a callback to the Mandarin. Maybe the Society of Light um, kind of like worships the Mandarin. Like the Mandarin is no more in this comics timeline, but they worship what he was, right? Like we know that the Mandarin was changed by alien technology. He had those rings, which seemed magic in nature, but they were actually highly advanced alien technology, and you know it basically gave him superpowers. Um, um, and I'm thinking there could be another conflict where this society's views kind of cause a rift between uh, people. There are those who want to go along with it because they want to be around forever. They buy what they're selling. It's like, hey, if they're working towards uh making humanity like better than it's ever been, working towards this isn't me trying to suggest that this organization is going to be successful in the way that they think they'll be, but that you know they've sold people this promise, this potential utopia of sorts, where humanity no longer has to worry about illness, no longer has to worry about old age, can basically live forever. Um, and so this is where it would probably extend into being an Avengers storyline where, or maybe not an Avengers storyline, but at least bringing in some of the Avengers, like namely Steve Rogers, where he and Tony and obviously Munition is going to be part of this. They get roped into something where it's like, okay, we need to come up with a way to try and convince the people who are going along with this that this isn't the way. like that this is wrong. And it would kind of function as a as sort of like a Civil War Part 3, right? Difference here being that the Avengers are not split at all. No, it's the people that are split. And they've kind of become adversarial in a way. They don't trust the heroes anymore. Um, but that would come much later, and would build off of this Iron Man comic. Um, and we'll just say that this society was founded by a group of scientists, each coming from a different field. You'd have your geneticists, you'd have your virologists, you'd have your what's the word? Your physicists, you'd have your engineers, um, you'd have your even botanists, right? If you're trying to build like a superior race of beings, why wouldn't you explore, plants and certain like medications that can be derived from those plants? Um, and I'm trying to think if there's a science that I may have left out. But I think that pretty much covers all the bases. Um, maybe Clarissa at some point tries to convince Colin to become part of them. Like she doesn't reveal it until much later, but she kind of takes a liking to him. The problem is she's so set in this belief that we need to force humanity to become better than it's ever been, even if it's against their own will. And that's where Colin's like, no, I can't go along with that. That's just not right. Um, and that causes them to come to blows. So, what do you think of that so far? Basically, this organization would be like Iron Man's equivalent of Hydra. I have many interests. Elaborate, please. Also, thank you for the 2 likes. Now, what ends up being revealed is that all is not as good as it seems to be, right? Like the society, this organization basically tells people, look, there's going to be trial and error. We're going to need to experiment. We're going to need to test our, our findings until we, reach that final point. That's going to, harm a lot of people. Uh, and, that doesn't really cause any division until it's revealed that they're not actually planning, the organization is not actually planning on making it so that humanity can reach the next stage in evolution en masse. No, they want it so that they'll be the only ones who reach that stage, and they can usher in a brand new era without the other humans being around. And they don't want mutants to be around. They don't want any species that's on the earth, um you know that's relative to humans in some way, to be around. They don't want the inhumans around. They don't they want them all to basically be wiped out. um they want the Avengers gone, like that sort of thing. And when that eventually gets revealed much later on, that's when even the people who were originally standing with them are like, "Oh, no, 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 no." Like, if you're going to go against our heroes, if you're, going to act as though you're doing this for the betterment of mankind, but then the reality is that you're just keeping it for yourselves and you're going to use us all as your guinea pigs, that's not going to fly. And that'll be when the people uh you know go back. They side with the Avengers and they're like, okay, we stand behind you now. Like, we want nothing to do with that anymore. Um, and I'm thinking that it would even lead into like Magneto and certain foes actually getting involved, because it's like, Magneto's whole thing is, a superior race. That sounds awesome, but you're telling me the superior race is just going to be like tinkering with people's genetic codes and basically forcing mutations. And like, he would be sickened by that, because to him, like, mutants, they're, first of all, they're born, like, to do to force people into more or less becoming mutants that are also like, more than that, is kind of like blasphemous. It's kind of like, what's the word? It's um your um I can't think of the word. I can't think of a word that's PG to use for it. But basically, what you're doing is you're corrupting the beauty of mutants. Is how Magneto would see this. Mutants are just born, right? Mutants are born with special gifts, and that's it. And there's a beauty in that randomness, right? But to force people to become mutants, and you know it would remind me of, it remind me, why did I say remind me, it would remind Magneto of his past during World War II in Germany, right? What he went through. um Now, maybe there is a point in which Tony has to fake his passing. And what leads to that is, this organization manages to convince a decent enough amount of people that Tony is lying to them. Like, he's building all this technology, but it's for his own sake. And they become so convinced of it that Tony's like, I had to do something drastic. I have to basically fake my own passing, um, and then have someone else take over while I'm gone. And that'll be Colin. Because they won't see Colin that way. They won't view him in the same way that they would Tony Stark. And that's also part of the reason why when Colin dons the armor, um, he doesn't call himself Iron Man, and that's also why the armor that was being built as a new Iron Man suit is altered to no longer be an Iron Man suit. It has the same technology, it just looks different for symbolic purposes. Um, and Tony would basically go underground and work with the likes of Nick Fury, Cap, these other heroes. They try to put their heads together and figure and think, okay, how are we gonna like stop this organization that is so well connected, so well funded, um, seems to have the people eating out of their palms. Um, like, what are we gonna do? I'm thinking they maybe even try and sell, certain superheroes like Spider-Man, Thing, and others who are not mutants, but like they've developed powers, and while being a hero is something that they love doing, they also wish that they could go back to being normal people so they could live normal lives, and it causes a degree of it makes it so that individuals like Peter Parker are kind of on the fence, right? Um, and so maybe they don't. Maybe someone like Peter decides, look, I'm not gonna fight. Uh, I'm not gonna join their side, but I'm also not gonna fight against them because I'm just too emotionally conflicted, like to keep my head in the game. Um, and so maybe because of that, Miles ends up like taking over for this, because he's not conflicted. Like he's like, look, I understand where they're coming from, but they're the bad guys. They need to be brought down. Um, Maybe Bruce Banner would be out of it because, or maybe it's the Hulk that would be out of it because the Hulk might look at it and say, oh, maybe they could make it so that I'm no longer attached to the weak, puny Banner. Like, um, sorry for the yawning. Maybe certain mutants would kind of feel conflicted. Like maybe Rogue would be conflicted, right? Um, she might be like, well, what if they could find a way to allow me to control my powers so that I can, physically interact with someone without draining them, but I can still use my powers like on command. Um, and maybe to make it more believable, because I mean these heroes are, they're pretty strong as far as their stances are concerned. Maybe there'd be a little bit of manipulation there, you know. Maybe they'd kind of mess with the heads of them too, and like use that to bring them over to their side. Uh, at least temporarily. Ugh, jeez, apologies for yawning. I don't know why I feel so worn out. But yeah, that's my idea. Um, Okay, so all right. Let's see. We got one viewer, three likes. It's getting kind of late. And I've more or less talked about what I wanted to talk about. I'll expand on this in another stream. Let's try to do one tomorrow. Figure out, you know, what time of day is best for getting the most views and likes. Um, and expect to see this stream uploaded tomorrow at 5 p.m. I know I think I've got one or two that are still privated. I will make sure to have those uploaded 5 o'clock on the subsequent days. With that, I want to thank everyone for showing up to this one, leaving a like. Um, to those of you who see this after the fact, if you're digging my jam, if you're liking what you're seeing and hearing, please consider leaving a like, uh, comment, and subscribing. And as always, there's something I need to tell you all. Something that I've been keeping a secret for a while now. The truth is, the truth is, I am Iron Man.